Hello and welcome to today's episode of Authentic Achievements, where it's my absolute delight to be joined by the fabulous Jen Febel. Jen, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to chat today.
Oh, me too. And I know from our previous conversation, we can get stuck in really quickly. So before share with the audience a little bit more about you. So diagnosed with over 7 mental health conditions by the age of 19, Jen embarked on a powerful journey of healing and self-discovery that shaped her belief that no one is broken and everyone has the power to heal. Now, as an author and an emotional resilience coach, Jen has helped hundreds of clients break free from emotional baggage and reclaim their lives. Through her private practice, retreats and podcast, the BTG podcast, Jen empowers individuals to build resilience, strengthen relationships, and embrace authenticity. Her new book, How to Set Boundaries Without Feeling Like a Dick, offers practical tools for creating healthier, more connected lives. Jen, I mean, where to start with that? Can you perhaps bring that journey to life for us, please?
Absolutely. So, like I said, when I was 19, I was diagnosed with 7 mental health diagnoses, including anorexia, bulimia, major depressive disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, suicide ideation, and self-harm.
Wow.
And most of those are basically considered lifelong diagnoses. In the eating disorder world, the best you're told you could aim for is long-term recovery, but that being recovered isn't really a thing. In terms of, traditional mainstream therapy, I was in and out of it for years. I have a degree in psychology, trying to figure out who I am by just studying it. And in that world, things like depression and anxiety are just biochemical issues only. And it's just, sorry, you're born with not enough of a chemical. There's no shame in it. Here's some medication. And okay, but I was left with this life that I was trying to survive, where I was no longer choosing not to be here, but I didn't know how to choose to be here. So I was in this world of limbo, and I had no skill set, no tools. I mean, to end up in a place with all these diagnoses means that my childhood was turbulent at best. Right. And so I ended up in my 30s where it started to manifest. Like I was functioning. I had a job. I worked in animal hospitals. I was a practice manager. I had a very fulfilling career in that. I had friends. I was outwardly fine, but inwardly just counting down the time until I was allowed to just not be here anymore. And then I hit my 30s and it started to manifest as a phobia of bugs and insects, which doesn't sound that exciting, but I'm in Ontario, Canada, where there's bugs everywhere all the time in the summertime. And so it started to then become an agoraphobia. I wouldn't leave the house. And I consider myself a pretty smart person. Like I studied, high sciences. I'm an intelligent person. I'm very aware that a butterfly is not going to kill me. Yet anytime anything would come near me, my body would go into the state where it was terrified. And before I even knew it, I was across the room. I ran into traffic trying to get away from things. And in trying to find help for that, it pushed me on a path outside of the traditional cognitive behavioral realm, because they don't deal with phobias. Right. There's exposure therapy, which means that I have to pay money to go every week to sit in a room with someone who's going to slowly expose me to my biggest fear.
You didn't want to do that, Jen.
Who the heck would pay for that? And to consistently do it. And for years, they told me it would have to be for years because it was such a bad. I wouldn't even in the hardware store walking down the aisle. I would have to close my eyes where there were bug sprays, just the picture of them. And you feel dumb. Like I understand, but that's a picture. It can't get me. My body couldn't handle it. And so in finding these other tools, these other avenues, I found healing. I found ways to feel better about myself. The little voice in my head stopped telling me how horrible I was and started encouraging me. And as I made it through that journey, I started to wonder, well, why is no one talking about this? I was told this was impossible. I was told I had statistically a 12% chance of ever living medication free. According to, I don't know, whatever algorithm formula the doctors use. I'm not sure. But that's what I was told by some pretty impressive specialists. And yet here I am, thriving, medication-free, recovered. I've been recovered for in December, it's my recovery anniversary, I call it. And I think I just passed 12 or 13 years. I'm actually at the point where I'm starting to lose count, which is exciting. So all that kind of brought me to a place where I realized most people have no idea that they're capable of finding something more, that the tools are out there and that it's not talked about as often as it could be. And so I want to make sure people are talking about it. And no matter who I work with, I've been in private practice for 10 years, working with people with trauma, with, symptoms of depression and anxiety and hopelessness. And no matter who I'm talking to, at some point the conversation comes up about, I'm not getting what I need in this relationship, in this space in my life, at work, at home, with kids, with family, but I don't know how to speak up without causing chaos, which is what boundaries are. And so after all these years, with every conversation going there, I started to realize just how important that was in my own journey. And that kind of brought me here. So that's, in a nutshell, where my journey's taken me. It was not an intentional one, but it must have been an intentional one at some level.
Oh, I love that. I mean, what a journey. And I think you're right. Boundaries are something that we can really struggle with, can't we? We can really struggle with I'm definitely a lifelong people pleaser. And therefore, as I hit my late 40s, early 50s and realized that doesn't necessarily serve me, and that I need to put in some healthy boundaries of my own but it's so hard to, because people are so almost annoyed that you've finally worked out that you should have some boundaries, and I guess almost that disbelief that how dare you find that out now, because I'm used to you doing everything that I would expect you to do for me. So how do you start on that journey to identify the boundaries and then start to set them?
So I love, first of all, I welcome fellow nice person, people pleaser, I get it. That's, being nice is kind of what we're taught. We're taught to give to others because that's how you gain love and acceptance. And so we become very nice. But it's not compassionate. When we're being nice, we're not being compassionate to others. We're not being compassionate to ourselves. And I think what makes boundaries so hard is that we make it about the other person and about how to say no, but how to say no in nicer ways. And the reason people react badly is because no one likes being told no. Like, I don't like being told no. No is not a stop. No is a push forward. No is now putting us on opposite teams.
Yeah.
But I want to change the conversation around boundaries. It's really not about telling other people no in nicer ways. Boundaries at their heart are about knowing where I am and where I'm not.
Yeah.
What is in my control, what is not in my control, where is the edge between me and not me? And I need to know that edge physically. Like, I know I'm physically not you, because I wouldn't look at your body and be like, is that me? Like, I know physically where I am. So that one's easy. But do I know where I am and where I end emotionally or mentally or energetically? What energy is mine? What emotions are mine? What thoughts and beliefs are mine? Do I know me? And that's really the crux of boundaries. We go through life being nice, knowing others, not knowing ourselves, and then try to set boundaries from an empty space where we don't really know what we're protecting with the boundaries in the first place.
Yeah.
And so boundaries have nothing to do with the other person. They have nothing to do with no. In the book, I walk through, it's not just information about boundaries, but different activities to take you from who am I? What is mine? What isn't mine? The different activities will help you figure that out. Figure out what are your core needs. Figure out the people who are triggering you. What can you learn that you can apply to yourself to give you your own personal map? And then I teach a 3-part formula that allows you to share what you need without having to say no ever. And we don't really understand that that's not, I can get my needs met without saying no to yours. I just have to put my hat in the ring. I just have to know how to make sure that my voice is heard without negating yours. Right now, sometimes a no is necessary, physical safety. No, right? Like if someone's doing anything, no, fine. But no cuts off a conversation and it puts the other person on the opposition, which
Yeah.
means they're going to get defensive. And then it's a whole messy thing. And so I teach people how to get your needs met without feeling like a jerk and in a way that actually connects you and bridges you to another person. That's the power that boundaries hold. And we miss all that because we're focused on the no.
I love that because it is so true. You know, you kind of, when I certainly for me, I should say, when I started setting boundaries, I would overanalyze in my head all of the scenarios, none of which were positive, where the person would react badly because actually I wasn't doing what they wanted me to do. Because that's the bit I couldn't get past at the time in my head, is I'm not doing what they want me to do. And that's going to frustrate them. And so I did have to go and do a lot more of the inner work to identify what did I actually want and what did it cost me to not hold my boundary. So what was I losing as a result? And was that something that I could continue to lose? Or was the impact of that too detrimental that actually you had to do something different? Because that almost, I guess for me, I don't know if this resonates with people that you work with, almost the platform had to be so uncomfortable that I had to do something different because I couldn't do what I was doing because it wasn't sustainable. Does that resonate?
100%. And this is something that I talk about a lot with my clients in my one-on-one practice. I talk about this a lot in a lot of the trainings and courses that I run. So when it comes to motivation, we're either motivated towards what we want or away from what we don't want.
Yeah.
So I either work so that I can retire somewhere wonderful, or I work so I don't end up broke on the streets. So one is towards something positive, one's away from something negative. And we all think that if we have a big enough goal, we'll just go towards it, that it's a good thing to set boundaries, that should be enough, or there's something towards it. But most of us need pain to motivate us. We need it to get so bad that what we're doing isn't working anymore in order for us to speak up. Now, is that necessary? No, we can create other types of, comfortable pain in our life that doesn't require our life to go completely sideways. But most of us don't speak up until it's at the point where we have to. You can see my dog, by the way, bouncing around in the background there.
Because normally people watching the show are used to the fact my dog will at some point stand on that chair and start barking randomly at passers-by. Well, every single episode.
Well, they're usually quiet, but if Amazon delivers a package, I've got 2 dogs and they'll lose their minds for about 30 seconds, but you'll see Stella bounce around a little bit. But yeah, I think that it's about recognizing that your voice doesn't have to be a win-loss scenario. And as long as we think it's a win-loss scenario, then again, it's an either or. Boundaries have the potential to be an and, to be a space where I say, tell me what you want. Okay, that's what you want. Awesome. This is what I want. Once we've both entered that space, let's now figure out a way so that we can both get our needs get our wants met and our needs met without having to compromise, without having to give up, without having to have any kind of loss, that we can together elevate each other into a space of a win-win, which is so cliched, but that's really what boundaries have the potential to do. But when done badly, they make us adversarial. They make me, I have to fight against you because you're trying to invade my boundaries. Even how we talk about boundaries, I have to hold my boundaries, I have to sit. That's so much energy. What if boundaries are just a bridge, a linguistic, conversational bridge to another person to see, hey, are you the kind of person I want to hang out with a little bit more? Let's find out. Let's talk. And it's purely a linguistic thing that gets you there. You don't have to have done years of healing. You don't have to do all these things. The book walks you through how to know what you want, how to then plug it into a formula, and then how to share it, and then what to do when someone inevitably doesn't like what you said or stomps all over your boundaries, and you get offended when that happens. But it happens. You're teaching another human being what's important to you. It's not important to them yet. They don't care. It's your wants. So you have to gently teach them versus enforcing and holding my boundaries, which you're going to not feel good going into that conversation because you're going to feel combative. And that's why we avoid it until it gets so painful that we have to. So yeah, I very much understand where you're coming from.
Oh, I love that. It reminds me of another book that I read and love and use very often, which is crucial conversations, and that moment in life where we have a conversation that becomes crucial. And by that, they mean it's fraught with emotion, because either one or both. There we go. There's the dog.
Hello, puppy.
Puds, thank you for saving me from the neighbour. Then again, but because one or both parties are coming at it from a position of fear. So if you think it's going to go badly, we're fearful we're going to end up in a difficult conversation. Therefore, the best form of defense is attack. So we go on the attack. we change our body language. But actually, once we become less wedded to the fact that just because I'm right doesn't mean you're wrong, and just because you're right doesn't mean I'm wrong, we can both be right, but we're viewing it from a different perspective, then that allows us to, the dog's going mental. I'm so sorry.
It's not good.
Amazon.
Yeah, right. I know. Amazon every time. They're peaceful, and then the second Amazon happens, I'm surprised mine haven't started, because through this headset sometimes they can hear it, but so far they're good.
Fingers crossed. He's now that. Thank you for saving us from that. I think once we get to that part that says actually that's okay, it becomes easier for us to have a less emotional conversation, doesn't it? Because we are now not pre-assuming that things are going to go hideously wrong, or to your point that we're not we're not thinking we're going to be in a fight. I will enforce my boundaries because I've already decided you're going to stomp all over them. You probably don't even know what they are. I've probably never shared them with you. So
right, I know. I've been stewing angrily in my own little cave about how you've been like taking advantage of me for years, or whatever. That's the story I like to, we tell ourselves, and then we're like, okay, I have to speak up and they're going to come at me. But what if instead, so if I say to someone something like, you can't talk to me that way, you're not allowed to talk to me that way, or you can't talk to me that way, which is always one of my favorite quote unquote boundaries, because it's not really a boundary. You haven't told a person really what you want. You've told them what you don't want. And it's a lie, because they can talk to you that way. They probably did. That's likely why you're upset. So an attempt to, sorry, like a hairball. An attempt to control someone else's behavior so that you're more comfortable is not a boundary.
Yeah.
A boundary is saying to someone, look, I appreciate that you're really upset right now, and I would love to be spoken to at a lower volume and with more respect.
Yeah.
And there's nothing adversarial, there's nothing confrontational about that sentence. And what I teach is, so that's kind of the formula. And then once you say that one sentence, I teach people how to speak up in a single sentence. It doesn't take any more than that. I appreciate your side. I appreciate what you're saying. And I would love this. That's all you need. And then if they're like, yeah, but you suck or whatever, you just agree with them. You say, yeah, not saying I agree that I suck, but I agree that you're allowed that perspective, that it's not my job to tell you that I don't suck. If you want to believe that I suck, by all means, have at it. And from my place of suckage, I would love to be spoken to more gently and with more respect. Right? Can that happen too while you think I suck? And so that's the formula. And like I said, linguistics does the work for you.
Yeah. I love that. It reminds me of years ago. And I took over a call. I was working in a call center at the time. This customer was very, very angry and was swearing quite a lot. And so they asked if I'd take the call over, and I did. I didn't realize one of the other leaders was actually listening into the call. And what I'd done is every time this guy swore, I stopped speaking. And then once he stopped swearing, I'd carry on and I'd help. But eventually he stopped swearing and we sorted out his problem. And we got to the end of the call and I said to him, I completely understand how frustrating this situation has been. And if I were faced with the same situation, I think I would have been equally frustrated as you. I don't think I'd have chosen to use your language, but I would have been equally frustrated. And he was like, oh, I'm really, send me some flowers. He was like, oh, I'm really sorry. And I said, well, it's less about me and more about the person that you spoke to earlier on the phone didn't deserve. They hadn't caused your problem. So they were just on the receiving end of your of the frustration that you had. And I hadn't thought about it. Inadvertently, we kind of like had shared a bit of a boundary without making him wrong for it. It was like, yeah, I get it. I'd have been as angry. Might have chosen a different form of dialect, but I would have been equally angry. So I appreciate and acknowledge you for that anger. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? People want to be they want to feel heard. And while we're busy telling them what we want them to hear, we can, if we're not intentional with it, inadvertently unhear them or make them feel unheard. Would that be fair?
100%, 100%. Oftentimes we'll linguistically, and it's really, so I'm trained in the word, so words matter in terms of not being nice and not using your language to appease others, but using words with intentionality in order to open a space. And oftentimes we unintentionally dismiss another person because we'll say things like, I understand where you're coming from, but, and then we'll tell our side of it. So what we're saying is, I understand what you're saying, but mine's more important and you should listen to mine. So I haven't actually validated them in the way I think. So I think that I'm letting them feel seen and heard and known. And those are such core needs for humans. We all want to feel seen and heard and known and understood. And when I say to someone, I understand your perspective, which is again a lie because I don't. If I really did, I'd probably agree with them, but I probably don't understand it. I can appreciate it. I can respect it. Right. I can love that they have their own perspective, but I don't have to, I don't have to understand it. That's not my job. It's okay for me to not understand it. Right. And then I'll say, I understand, which is wrong, but which linguistically cuts off anything I just said. It puts the nervous system on high alert. It tells it something's coming.
Yeah.
Right. It's waiting for that shoe to drop. Second you hear but, and even before someone gets to the but, it's coming. It's coming. Sometimes they'll stop and you'll fill it in for them. They're like, I understand where you're coming from. You're like, but. So we already know that what they just said is technically a lie because they don't understand, and that they don't really care because they said but, and now they're going to tell us all the reasons we're wrong. So linguistically, we've made it so that it's getting our nervous system hyped up for no reason. Versus if I say, I appreciate where you're coming from, and which is what you did with this guy. If I was in your shoes, I would completely be what you're doing. And how you spoke about it might not have been what I would have chosen. And I'm validating you as a human being. You held your boundary while still validating another. And you sent flowers. It created a bridge. It made a connection, right? It allowed you to not walk away holding on to this energy of like, why should we give someone the power to change our energy in that fashion? We don't have to.
Oh, that's the thing. I always say, we don't get to choose how somebody behaves towards us, but we do get to choose how we respond. And that's the piece we've got to own. It is that how we respond. I remember for years, if anything awful happened, because I wanted to empathize. And even if you've been in a similar situation, there can be a drive to go, oh, I know how you feel. Well, I don't know how you feel. I've not asked you. I know how I felt when I faced a similar situation, but that's not how you felt. So I changed. So now, if anything happens like that, I can't begin to imagine how you're feeling, but I'd love to listen.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, and often I lost my dad last year, and people go, "But you lost your dad." And I went, "Yeah, I lost my dad. I know how I feel. I don't know how you feel, because I'm not you. so I'm not therefore saying that you're not going to feel how I felt, but I'm equally not going to say that you are, because why would I not ask you how you're feeling? Why do I feel the need to know the answer, to be able to empathize with you? And we do that all the time, don't we? We do that with so many things. I remember probably about 20 years ago now, being on a course as a leader, and it was one of the ones that I dread the most, where they have to make you do awful role plays and you have to get up in front of people. And I don't feel the hives coming on just thinking about it, even though it was 20 years ago. And they're like, Kim, you can come up and you can give feedback on that. So, steeled myself for it. Got up to the front and sat down, and I said, but before we get started, can I just ask you, how do you like your feedback to be given? And the whole room went quiet. Now, I thought it was a perfectly normal question. I was like, oh, now I'm feeling even more awkward because everyone's looking at me. I've clearly got something hideously wrong here. And the guy running the course went, do you know, nobody's ever asked me that question. And I went, oh, right. I'm sorry. And he goes, no, it's a really good question. He said, but literally nobody has ever asked me that question. And I was like, right, but it's your feedback. So unless I ask you how you like it, the likelihood of me delivering it in a way that you're able to take it on board is highly unlikely. Because all I can do is give you the feedback the way I'd like it. Well, that's probably not the way everybody else. Because, I'm a bit of a right between the eyes kind of girl in the how I'd like to receive it. It's not necessarily how I'd like to give it to anybody. So you've got to, but we get so nervous about stepping into that unknown, don't we?
Well, so what you're talking about is curiosity. And curiosity is one of the human traits that is so amazing that we don't tap into because it's often crushed early in life, that curiosity and obedience don't go well together. And so we're taught to follow the rules. We're taught to do what we're told. We're taught to color within the lines. But we have access to and naturally move into a space of curiosity. And so we always have to kind of push that part down. But when we can use curiosity and find out, in order to have a conversation, I need to know your perspective. I need to know what you want. But on the flip side, when I ask someone, how do you want to receive feedback? They need to know themselves well enough to be able to answer. And we often don't know what we want well enough. We don't know ourselves well enough. And so we wait for other people to tell us and then get mad when they get it wrong. But they're basically just like, do you want this? And they throw it over like, I don't want that. And they, well, do you want this? I don't want that. You don't even know me. And we go into this whole drama. And then you say to them, well, what is it you want? Well, I don't know. Well, then how the heck is the other person going to know? Like, if you don't know what you want, if you don't know how you want to receive feedback, and I guarantee if you ask most people, how would you like to receive feedback? They're probably like, I don't know. Just do what you normally do. They're going to be like, whatever. Right. And we think that's easygoing, but it's just we have a blind spot for our own wants and needs, because curiosity and obedience don't go well together. And society's taught us to play along versus learn how to play together, how to collaborate together, how to elevate each other. And so what you're talking about is trauma. Yay. It's not inevitable. It's something that 100% can be worked through. It's a skill set. It's just one we're not often taught how to do well. And so we bumble along and do it badly, which is why relationships are a 50-50 in terms of if the marriage or the relationship is going to survive. It's a coin toss, but it's not because there's anything inherently wrong with relationships of any distinction. It's because we suck at it because no one taught us the skill set of how to be curious about another person without feeling threatened by their thoughts.
Oh, I love that. Me and my little girl, we have a family motto. And that is to live a life of passionate curiosity.
I love that.
I think curiosity it's an underutilized skill. And I think it doesn't help that we grew up with sayings like curiosity killed the cat. So I mean, whatever happens, don't be curious.
Right. Right. It's crazy.
We do need to do more of it. Jill, I could literally chat to you all day. I can't believe time has just literally flown. You've already shared so much amazing stuff with us, but if you had to go back and give your younger self a piece of advice, what would it be?
It's a tricky question. I've been thinking about that because I know you're going to ask it. And I think I wouldn't tell myself anything that would give away the future or make me change my path, as miserable as some of parts of that path have been. It's all been valuable. I would tell myself that the path is yours and you're safe and okay to walk it. And that no matter what's going on, it's your path and it's valid no matter what. I think I would just let myself know that my path is okay. It's okay. I don't need to change anything.
I love that, because I think that's the thing, isn't it? Often I ask this question at the end of every episode, and most often it's a variation of that. It's like, just trust yourself. But who you are is where you're supposed to be. And I think life often only makes sense in the rearview mirror. It's only when we look back we go, that's why I had to learn that, or that's why I went through that, or that's the gift that I was given because I went through that particular situation, even if the situation wasn't one you skipped into or skipped out of. It was like, but it was all it all had a purpose, didn't it? So, Jen, before you go, can you share with us how people can get in touch with you and who you help?
Sure, absolutely. So I help anyone who's looking to bridge the gap between their head and their heart, who have been trying everything for years and not really getting anywhere they want to go, who've learned how to not drive off the cliff of life, but now want to make a 3-point turn and find out what's out there. So anyone who's looking for that, and I do that through a number of ways. I do that through my one-on-one private practice. So I do offer sessions, coaching sessions. I do that through my Soulful Radiance retreats, which I run twice a year. They're 4-day retreats. We spend time in the beautiful Hockley Valley, Ontario, and it's lovely, lots of healing. I do that through some of my trainings, which you can find all that information on my website, which is btgwellness.com, because BTG stands for Bridge the Gap, because that's what I help people do.
Oh, I love that. And for anybody who didn't get to scribble all of that down, please just check the notes below. So all the ways to connect with Jen and learn more about her work and work with her will be in those notes. Jen, it's been an absolute joy. Thank you so very much for coming on and sharing your experience and some great tangible things that we can do differently to regain mutual control of the conversation. I think for me, that was the bit that you got. You weren't making the other person wrong to make you right. You were trying to find a way that actually both people are heard and respected, and therefore you invite both parties to be part of the solution.
Yeah, how to set boundaries without feeling like a dick. That's the book. that's the mission. 100%.
Yes. And to everybody listening and watching, I hope you found it as insightful, inspiring, and actionable as I did. And until next time, take care.